This is 40K Today. The 40K podcast's so important that we had our psychic awakening ages ago. We've been psychically awake since, second edition. Hiya folks, and welcome to 40K Today. So this is your daily shot of 40K adrenaline. You know that we feature stories from all across the hobby, competitive, conversions, painting, law, you name it, we do it, and from all over the world as well. I'm your host, Steve Joel, and today on the program, top player, coach and content creator, Ridvancio Martinez, also known as Skari, stops by with our faction focus on Drukhari. And we want to know how they're going to play in ninth and how the latest FAQ is going to change the way they work in this game. Also in a minute, hobbyist Ryan Ward stops by to give us a great hobby tip. Make sure you get over to Facebook and let us know what you think in our latest Facebook poll as well. This week we want to know, do you regularly watch battle reports? If they're your thing, then which ones do you like the best? The very clear favourite in the comments at the moment is Tabletop Tactics. And understandably so, they're huge, right? But there are plenty of folks who are also fans of Winter's SEO and SkaredCast too. All right, let's get on with today's show. We love every aspect of the hobby here at 40K Today. So yeah, we're going to talk competitive play soon enough. But first, we want to help you get stuff done in the painting room. Ryan Ward from Ryan's Minis is an accomplished painter who spoke to Tanya Gates about the importance of experimenting with new products and new techniques, and also about asking lots of questions while you're getting started.
I'm here with one of my favorite painters, Ryan Ward. He is, I think, one of the most bold and colorful painters out there, and it really sort of tugs at my heartstrings. And I'm really excited because he is going to give us some tips of things that he wishes other painters might have told him when he was first getting started. So let's get into it. What do you wish that people would have told you right away?
So when I started the hobby, it was about 23 years ago. I used to just paint in the store in Games Workshop pretty much every weekend. But I was very quickly pigeonholed into everything Games Workshop and Citadel. So the paints, the paintbrushes, nobody ever advised me there's other paints out there, there's other brushes out there. I wish that I'd learned that because it's such a simple thing. So right now I use quite a variety of paints. I've got about 100 odd Citadel paints. They're all great. However, if I was told about the ranges such as Vallejo or Scale Color, I'm not 100% sure how prevalent they were back then. But also the different qualities in brushes like Winsor, Newton, Series 7, they've been around for years and the quality difference is insane. So one of my earliest advice is be free to just branch out, try new things, try new techniques, go online, go on Instagram, for example. Absolutely amazing place. Since I've made my account on there, I feel my quality's increased. I'm constantly inspired by so many amazing painters. So many people are free to give advice. Just ask people for tips. If you see something and you like the look of it, drop that person a message. You might get just left on scene, but if you're lucky, they'll quite happily tell you how to do it, and then you can improve yourself as a painter. My door's always open, or rather my inbox is always open. I'm happy to give advice, give free tutorials, and yeah, that's my best advice is just don't get stuck in a rut.
Yeah. I think it's really funny because there's so much debate about brushes online. What's your favorite brush, synthetic or sable? And for me, whenever people ask me, I always just say, just try stuff. Just experiment because it is such a personal thing. Would you agree with that statement?
Definitely. So the best brush, well, not the best brush now, but the best brush Games Workshop had, for example, was the Artificer brushes, which are relatively new, I think. But they're good, but they're also quite expensive. And if you're going to spend that kind of money on a brush like that, why not spend more or the same amount and get a higher quality brush, or just try it for yourself? Like, for example, I've got a bunch of Citadel brushes. I've got about 8 of the Winsor Newton Series 7, and I've got a few of the Artist Opus brushes. And yeah, I just flip between them all. So they've all got their own uses.
Whenever I go into an art store, and that's the other thing, like if you're not going into art stores as well to just check out what they have, like you're potentially missing out on a lot of cool stuff. But whenever I go into a new art store, I check out and see if they have any brands that I've not tried yet.
Yes.
And then I just pick out one. I usually pick out like a larger sort of layer brush, and then I just pick out one from like each of the lines that I've not tried yet, and I just take it home and I try it.
Yeah, one of the things I got stuck in, and this is another tip, I guess. Don't go mental with the amount of brushes you buy. You can get a hell of a lot of detail with a size 1 brush if you take good care of it. So, make sure you get some brush soap, clean it after every use, and that one brush will last you for years, potentially. And as long as you've got a nice point on your brush, you don't need to get the super fine detail brushes. I mean, I've got a size from 000 to size 2, and the size 000 and 00 very rarely get used anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. I usually use a larger brush as well. I actually, when I do videos or anything like that, people always comment on how big of a brush that I'm using.
Yeah.
But then it just goes to show, like you really have to try stuff, right? Because what works for me is not going to work for you, and vice versa.
Yeah, it's also worth another thing. Like I was never taught is a big brush isn't a bad thing. It's silly having you trying to use a smaller brush for a big area, because one thing that's going to happen is you're more likely to leave quite obvious brush strokes. It's better to get a nice smooth layer in one coat rather than letting it dry.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Hey, thanks so much for that hobby tip. And we'll make sure to link people to your Instagram from our social media as well. But thank
Sounds
you.
great. Thank you very much.
That's Ryan Ward speaking to our own Tanya Gates. You can follow Ryan's Minis on Instagram for lots of great pics and a heap of very cool tutorials as well. Next up, get ready to dive into the darkest place in the webway, the city of Camorra. Skari is here with a faction focus on the Dark Kin.
Today's episode of 40K Today is brought to you by Frontline Gaming. Frontline Gaming is a one-stop shop for all your Warhammer hobby needs, discounted products, American-made gaming mats and terrain, and a full line of miniatures painting service and daily hobby content. And this can all be found at frontlinegaming.org.
Welcome back. Skari probably needs no introduction. He runs the YouTube channel SkaredCast. He's a top player with multiple GT wins and plenty more besides, and maybe the world's best-known Drukhari player. He's been playing TTS and he's been running battle reports and practicing with Ninth more than most, I think. So who better to ask about how his beloved Dark Kin will play in the new edition, especially in light of the new FAQ, which kind of nerfed the Look Out Sir rule for him. Here he is with Tanya.
I'm here with Archon Skari, and he is here to give us his faction focus on Drukhari. Thanks so much for being here, Skari.
Ah, the Dark Kin. I'm here.
So now that you've played the new edition, how do you feel Drukhari have fared? Do you think they've sort of moved up in the meta, moved down? Where do you think they are?
So I think they're in a very similar spot to where they were at the end of 8th edition. I think they have the ability to win the games and win the missions. They are not an army that is easy to play. It's not like something that you can just rely on strength in numbers or like high durability. It really has a very big skill gap threshold, where the more skilled you are, the that is a direct correlation to how well you do in the game.
All right, so it's maybe not the easiest for beginners. You could say that?
Correct. I'd say it is one of the most entertaining and fun armies to play, like lore-wise and narrative-wise. So it has the ability to keep a newer player around because of the hobbying potential and the way the models look, because they're really cool, and like all the story-based stuff. So it'll inspire a new player, right? But when you put it on the tabletop, it's a lot harder to master than it is to just like want to collect them.
Gotcha. So, are there any units that you anticipate getting more use out of in the new edition?
Hellions. I've been preaching Hellions for the last like couple of days. I feel like anything that's fast moving that can do actions and get secondary objectives will be really useful. Like, don't get me wrong, I think there's potential in like every unit in the Dark Eldar book. You're probably going to see a lot of the Coven units because they are just downright the most durable units in the Codex, and the ones that sort of give you the best chance at winning the missions by staying on objectives and whatnot. But I feel like in terms of playing 9th edition and using, and of course the fact that we don't know what like a new codex will bring in that sense, like anything could change in new codex. But I do feel that, at least for me, a unit that is going to see more action is going to be some of the less used units like Hellions, because of the fact that they're fast, they can do actions, they're maneuverable, and they seem to fit into my personal play style very well, and I'm excited to see what I can do with them.
So you talked a little bit about speed. Are there any other faction strengths that the Drukhari players could leverage to be successful in 9th?
Yeah, the fact that you can use that sort of like triple patrol detachment to mix and match obsessions. So it's essentially being able to take like multiple armies in a single army without having to sacrifice your use of command points, which means that you can take Witch Cult, Coven, Cabal, or triple different kinds of Witch Cult, or 3 different types of Cabals, or 2 patrols of 1 Cabal and 1 Witch Cult. So there's a lot of optimization that can be made that way based on the units you want to run in your list, and the stratagems or relics or warlord traits or customization towards your local meta that you might want to leverage with special rules.
Excellent. Okay, so we saw the changes to lookouts are coming through in the last FAQ. Does that affect the Drukhari in any major ways that you can see so far?
It does change a lot of the like ways that you might have like recently been looking at keeping your character safe. In the sense that like Talos, units of 2 or less, no longer block for your characters. I think most notably, a Venom is not going to keep your character alive if the Venom is standing next to your character. Personally, it doesn't change what I have been doing, because I've been using combination of Talos and Grotesques in the front lines, which are both durable and both units that can block in units of 3 and in units of 5 for the Grotesques. So in that sense, it doesn't change so much. And as for backfield units, at least for the Drukhari, usually the Archon's next to the Ravagers. They're 10 wounds, so he tends to be safe around them. And if your Ravagers die, you're probably losing the game anyway.
Gotcha. Thanks so much for your insights, Skari. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm looking forward to the little jingle at the end of the episode.
That's Skari. You can check out SkaredCast on YouTube and download the latest Chapter Tactics podcast for more of his thoughts on 9th. Okay, who's ready to get this song stuck in your head? It is time for the Model of the Day.
It's the model of the day, the model of the day, the model of the day.
Today's model comes to us from Ryan, who we featured just a little earlier in the show. Ryan Ward has done an amazing job on a rusty Necron. This has got beautiful blue in the brand new gun and also the rust. This is the key feature. Now, I've done this before myself with Necrons, and some people, the purists, may not love a rusty Cron, but I tell you, if you do, no one does it better. He's actually done a tutorial on his Instagram page on how to get that real rugged, rough rust. And man, doesn't it look amazing on this Necron Warrior. I encourage you to check it out on Instagram. You can find it in our show notes, the link to the model of the day. If you have a model that you think should feature in the model of the day, let us know. Tell us who's done it. Maybe it's yours. You can hashtag 40K today and we'll find it on Instagram as well. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. Big thanks to our content producer, Alex Painter, our social media ace, Tanya Gates, and our technical producer, Seamus Ronan, for all of their hard work every single day in getting this program to you for your entertainment and information. So we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, for Paul and John and the 40K Today team, I'm Steve Joel, and that's what's happening in 40K Today.